Coaches, I'm Claire Chancellor from Be Your Purpose Coaching. Today, I want to take you down the rabbit hole of understanding quantum linguistics and how that connects in with spiral dynamics. This is quite a fascinating conversation to be had as we explore how you raise your consciousness, what is thought, and what you do to be able to manifest in the goals that you want effortlessly. When you realize that you are creating your reality, each bubble of reality, each decision that you're making now is determining what timeline you are on. And so when you get this, when you get how you're holding yourself back, you now have new choices into expanding your awareness to new possibilities. So ready for this? Let's get started. So I'm going to start this off by asking, where does thought come from? I believe that I'm psychic. I know that I've got a connection to the spirit world. I know that I'm connected to a multidimensional experience, that I'm part of the mystery. But the question is, with our consciousness, where do our thoughts come from, especially when it comes to manifesting in our intuition, our heart's desire, the things that we want for ourselves? Where do those ideas come from? Now, just to sidestep a little bit, it's interesting to think about that the piano and the sound of the piano was not a thinkable thought until it was invented 500 years ago. It's quite fascinating to think about the person who even channeled in the idea to put all of the pieces of the puzzle together to then be able to create the piano. And I can understand that musically, it's a progression of inventions over time. But to think that the neural pathways and the way that we think about the piano could not be a thinkable thought until somebody channeled it in. This is much the same as your goals. In a coaching session, I may ask somebody, when you think about having that magic wand, what do you want for yourself? Often people struggle with the idea of what do you want? And it's sort of like they don't even have the neural pathways that allow themselves to dream really big. The ego gets in the way and they shut themselves down from even allowing themselves to want what they really, really want. So it's quite interesting, right? How the thoughts come to mind. When you are working with your clients to help them reach their goals, you need to be able to do meta thinking. This is about thinking above your thoughts and it's about thinking above your client's thoughts. This is a little bit like what we cover in meta programs in Master Practitioner, where you think about the construct. Well, what is it like if I do this thing I'm thinking about? So, meta programs are the unconscious filter that looks at a thought within a thought. Fascinating. Within our NLP Master Practitioner training, we do look at the Myers-Briggs and we look at how people sort for information, what meaning do they put to their experience of reality, is their thinking outdated, and how are you forming your thinking so we can actually challenge it. Again, we look at this in the quantum linguistics chapter of our training. What I want to do is bring your attention to spiral dynamics. I love, love, love teaching spiral dynamics. This study of understanding how our consciousness starts to raise and going from that survival bottom end of the spiral all the way to that global thinking. This is where I want to explore with you today about how you have to let go of old limitations to ensure that you are thinking in a higher frequency dimension. So let's go over the spiral dynamics very briefly. Thinking about that beige level, thinking about when you learnt Master Practitioner, we looked at the values of the beige level. And this is like caveman mentality, where it's all about survival, it's that animalistic kind of instinct and thinking. And this is all about just in that moment, food, sex, and shelter. So this is like in this modern age, obviously, we don't really have cave people. But in this modern age, this would be seen as the level of consciousness as an infant or somebody at the other end of their life with Alzheimer's. So this is that level of consciousness where they're very vulnerable and they're basically getting all of their needs attended to in a sense of I'm uncomfortable, help me feel comfortable. So that's all they're really focused on. And in fact, at that level, the level of consciousness, that little one does attach itself to my existence, is my mother's existence. So when we think about the quantum reality and how you are experiencing space, time, energy, and matter, where, when, how, and why, and what are you doing to create the reality you're in? We think about the beige level and we think about space. For somebody at the beige level, space is all about where my mother is where I am. The time, my pain and my comfort need urgent attention. This is how their consciousness measures time. And the energy, my needs is all I can focus on. So this is the how and the why for them doing their survival. The matter, the what is at this level of spiral dynamics. They're very ego dependent, very much in that survival. And so the limitation at this level of consciousness is about functioning from that reptilian brain, that animalistic instinct, that egocentric, this is all that's right in front of me. So that's that limitation in that level of spiral dynamics in beige. Now, let's get your mind thinking. Let's do a bit of meta thinking together. And what did they have to let go of at that level that actually previously worked for them? I deliberately have the picture there of the matrix of, will you take the red pill or the blue pill? Because when people start to raise their frequency and start to get into the spiritual awareness on that spiritual journey, often they think that there's going to be some sort of massive awakening. There's a choice. Do I take the red pill or the blue pill? Do I really want to know the truth about the matrix and and our experience on reality? But truth be told, your soul has gone through all of these different layers already. Previously, at that lower end of the spiral, at that 3D carbon bodied experience, you already had to make the choice to let go of old limiting thinking to access a new reality. So for beige, it really is letting go of the singular perspective that it's all about me. Now we raise our consciousness to the level of purple, and this is the level where think about people who live in the jungle as that metaphor, where they're living in that nest, in that tribe, and that anything outside of that tribe is perceived as a possible threat. So we do what we can at that level to stay within the tribe, to be quite loyal to the tribe, and anything out there is quite mysterious and a threat. So we often create this level of codependency to ensure our survival, to be part of the pack, because it's all together. This particular level does have a lot of awareness into shamanic kind of gods and herbal remedies, connections to the elemental energy out there, and having a real beautiful connection to Mother Earth. In this day and age, you would see this play out with people who devote themselves to things like witchcraft, astrology. In this modern age, you would think about people at kindergarten age where they're part of the pack, and anything outside of those kinder gates is an absolute threat. So they do what they can to be good, to ensure that they're part of that survival. So so it's an interesting level, and we still have it in our community. So, coming into the quantum linguistics side of things, space, time, energy, and matter, what stops them from thinking about their situation in a new way? Their way of experiencing space, where they are, is that the world is mysterious. The way that they experience time is that time and fate is controlled by external forces. The stars in the sky, the mysterious beings in the forest, or the potential threat of other people taking up their territory. The energy, the how, and the why is their survival is dependent on pleasing outside energy. And the matter on what they're doing is all about being at effect, the codependency perspective. And of course, the limitation at this level is the fear of being separate to the tribe. What did they have to let go of that previously worked for them to raise their consciousness? Well, I should have put the answer there. But when I reflect on this one, this is where they have to let go of the codependency. They have to start to allow themselves to step out of that nest and that tribe to to go out into the wilderness to really explore what it is to have power away from the tribe. So this is in spiral dynamics. This is when we get to the level threes, or the red level, I should say. This is that where they have to really bring forward the conscious awareness of power, and it's the me sort of domination. Think about the society in jails where in that now moment, it's, power versus weakness. You want to make sure that you are the strongest and the fittest to ensure your survival. At this level, they have no remorse, no guilt. The ego is the strongest, so they don't even have conscious awareness that they could feel guilty. If you punish or embarrass somebody at the red level, they will try to get back at you because they're focusing from a consciousness where nothing can threaten their sense of power. They've already left the group and now they want to be the strong dominant one. So, what do they assume about space, time, energy, and matter? Like, what stops them from thinking about their situation in a new way? Well, for them in this reality, space is the world is their battlefield. On their perception of time is that they need to be on alert to outside threats. There's the energy there to fight to survive despite others, and the world is out to take my power. They do what it takes to avoid being seen as weak. Now, when we compare, especially spiral dynamics, when we compare this level of three to a level of six, seven, and eight, six, sevens, and eight, and we're getting there, but they have the consciousness of accepting others for who they are, to recognize that you can have harmony with that co-creation. So somebody who's going through that spiritual awakening and is at those higher frequencies really sees these people as they may have an observation, but really recognize that when they were there, there was a limited point of view there. And that as they raise their consciousness, that the manifesting abilities to be harmonious and to to be more at ease in their energy really does give them a more blissful life. So the level threes, what did they let go of that previously worked for them? Well, to raise their consciousness, they had to recognize that the cup is they had to let go that the cup is half empty and start to move into level four where the cup is half full. Different kind of thinking. So when you raise your consciousness in spiral dynamics and you come up to the blue level, you now move back into the loyalty of the group. You recognize that violence isn't ensuring your isn't ensuring your safety. So this is where people move out of the level threes. They come into the system-based thinking of schools, universities, churches, governments, the police force, the law, that we all work together as one with a higher level of consciousness. And there's a sense of justice of what is right and what is wrong. At this level, the blues will see that what the reds are doing are the bad guys and they're the good guys. So there's this sense of judgment at this level where what they're doing, if they follow the book, if they follow the rules, then that gives them safety. And in fact, if you think about your own experience, if you've ever had trauma, sometimes you've dropped back down to level four. Well, what are the rules? What should I do? Because that way it gives you a level of safety. So there's a lot of focus here at the blue level to ensure that everybody's working together and that we're all the same. So, what stops them from thinking about their situation in a new way? Well, that at level four, the world has black and white rules for them. They sacrifice their time to be seen as good to ensure that they get rewarded for that. And they don't need the immediate reward, but somewhere down the track, if I am good and I am good enough, then I will be rewarded. So the energy of what motivates them is to follow the rules, follow the leader, follow the rules that the leader dictates. And so There is a perception there that the outside energy judges my loyalty and obedience. So I need to be right, I need to do the good things. And the limitation for this one is that they do what it takes to be seen as good and good enough. To raise your frequency and to shift your consciousness, at this level, you have to let go of the need to be right and the need for things to be true and the need for to be seen as being loyal. So this is where you see people who, I'll give you a cliche black and white example, but it's where somebody who's born into like a religious family and this is how things are. And then if somebody steps out and says, well, no, actually, I'm gay, that's according to, some people's books and some people's rules, that's not right. And so there can be a level of shame and it's sort of like, well, actually your level 4 is quite limiting and I need to be my truth and I need to step away from this group. So they will step out of the rules to have their own sense of inner freedom. And that's just one example. That could be somebody who's born into a very academic family, and then want to go out and say that they're a medium or a psychic, and it's like, oh no, we don't do that. You're playing with the devil, or whatever woo-woo shaming that they do. And it's sort of like, but your way is too limiting. It doesn't allow my energy just to expand. So people will let go of the need to follow the rules to step out of this level into a new level of consciousness. What happens typically at level orange, the fifth level, is that they've stepped away from the group. So there's a need to prove themselves. There's a need to create that sense of success, not necessarily to um, have that notoriety away from what the four said that they couldn't do. But there's a real drive now to be free of the old rules. So there's a level of competition and to be the best, and I want it yesterday, because it comes with that sense of freedom. There is some issues with the level orange because they can very quickly do burnout from going, doing, being, having, rushing, wanting the best, wanting to be the best. So they can do a bit of burnout at that level. So when we think about their space-time energy and reality, how they perceive reality in this quantum reality, they recognize that where they are, that the world is quite disposable. Disposal? I've misspelled that there. But but the way that they perceive space is that whatever gives them the sense of materialism is good for them. They use time in a sense of rushing for that external fulfillment, that competition. So time is sort of like sped up. They use a lot of seeking permission or labels to be seen as being the right thing, or the number of counts on their Instagram accounts and things like that. It's sort of like, oh, that's my motivation. And the matter is the reward to be the best. So that's what they're doing. And the limitation for them is I am nothing if I don't prove my value. So what did they have to let go of that previously worked for them? Well, this is where they start to raise their consciousness and realize that the materialism that they were chasing hasn't actually given them the inner fulfillment. The external world is not aligning with them in the way that they thought it would. So they have to actually let go of the cup is half full. And so we're now starting to question a whole new way of being. We move into level 6 in the quantum reality, and this is where people come back to the group, come back to harmony. They recognize that competition and violence and being at effect and the ego is not working so well for them. And so they start to bring in things like yoga, meditation, smoothies, retreats, anything that can bring people to get like-minded people together to bring harmony back to their world. So they don't like having a leader, but they like to sit in groups together to share, and so that we're all at the same level. They have been on a journey where that competition is draining, and so there's a lot of heartfelt compassion, very anti materialistic. And the interesting thing with this level is that they are actually quite judgmental. If you are perceived to be materialistic, you're outside of the group. And if you seem to have a competitive nature, then you are outside of the group. So they like to be around people that are like-minded. So, from this perspective, when they raise their consciousness to level 6, this is where they perceive the world needs rescuing because they've seen all of the damage that has been created from being part of the system or being part of that violent world or being part of level 5 materialistic world. So, there's now this perception that the world needs rescuing. And because we're sitting around a lot at this level, having conversations about what can be done for change, time is disposable. They're they're motivated to belong and to share responsibility. And the what that they're doing is blaming the outsiders and creating a cause to share and be part of the project. So their limitation is who supports me if I am separate. And the question is, what did they have to let go of to raise their consciousness to be able to step into more of that quantum linguistic world? Well, they had to let go of the fact that sitting around and meditating is great, but being in a 3D body where you still need to pay your bills and you still need to eat and you still need a roof over your head, this is where they've had to reconcile with themselves to be able to have a balance, to bring some of their level 5 back in some level to be able to bring in money, bring in business. So we're now balancing things out at level 7. Level 7's the yellows. They're curious learners and they like to make significant changes. They've been through the spiral and they understand different things from different perspectives. So they want to make a shift and they want to be able to help people better themselves. So they can get quite restless if leaders aren't performing to be able to create this systematic change. They're not so fussed with other people's judgments because they've been at all of the other levels. And so therefore they can see where their points of view, where they're coming from. And it's sort of like, isn't that an interesting point of view that you've got? So they can see multiple perspectives all at once. And in fact, if you're somebody who's about to pay for coaching, I would say make sure that you get somebody who's at that level of consciousness at yellow or higher, because they are able to think very differently moving since they've moved through the levels. This is where they recognize that the world is a place to contribute to, that time is endless, and that the energy that they use is to create change working with the systems that are already there. So previously it was like we're going to create new systems and then we're going to fight the system and then we're going to change the system. This one's this level is really acknowledging where how those systems all co-create and work together. And so they are motivated by multiple perspectives and being part of that observation. So the limitation, though, at this level is that they actually come back to the dread of being alone again in the world that doesn't understand them. It's lonely at the top. They've raised their level of consciousness, and the other yellows are not so obvious because of because of the way that they have been through the different levels. They can adapt who they are to fit in. The yellows are not so obvious. And so the yellows find themselves individually like isolated. The question is, what did they have to let go of that previously worked for them? Well, they had to let go that the cup, the cup's not half full anymore. The question at this level is, does the cup even exist? This is the level where people recognize that even the belief construct, when you start your spiritual awakening, you start to recognize that there's these limiting beliefs that are holding me back. And then you start to build in beliefs that are really empowering. At this level, at 7+ is when you actually recognize that beliefs are just a construct that you can either adapt to or not. So this is where things get really crystalline, holographic-y way in the in the way that they start to think. So quickly having a look back at, does the cup exist? Recognizing that we've worked through all of the levels in spiral dynamics and the levels of consciousness, Can you get a grasp here of how people sort for information very differently? You can start to notice what meaning people are putting to their experience of reality. And the question is their thinking outdated? How are they forming their thinking so that we can challenge it using quantum linguistics and NLP? The different levels here mean that if you are at level 4 and you are abiding by the rules of what's right or wrong, is it right to have a baby when you've been in a married relationship, or is it wrong to not want children? Like all of that stuff at level 4 plays out a different scale of the quantum of like what's right or wrong compared to somebody who's at a level 7 who will just treasure relationships and they're not attached to the outcome. They either have the child or they don't have the child. So the right or wrong, the polarity shifts at each different level. Yeah. So thinking about the way that they think at level purple, level purple, we would use quantum linguistics to say, is it true your problem exists? Is it being the threat outside there? Is that true that there's a threat outside of you? At level 3, is it true you have to be powerful to get money? At level 4, is it true that family is everything? At level orange, is it true that you have to work hard to get what you want? And at the green level, is it true sharing is caring? Within the quantum reality, is that actually true, or is your thinking outdated? Very briefly, I'll just touch on this. The turquoise level is 0.01% of the population. So this is what you'd consider like the star seeds who have worked through and transcended their ego. Their thinking is more from the heart space than the mind, and they start to question their reality from that mystical perception. Level 8s, they want to come back to the community, so they're seeking that like-minded group that instead of seeing things as fixed, they're going to question everything. Question what are judgments, question what's right about that judgment, what's wrong about that judgment. They're going to be very driven by the questions that they ask. And truth be told, the turquoise people are very different in the way that they don't react to things as as quickly as lower levels because they are beyond survival, they're beyond their needs, they are more from that place of the sacred neutral, and they know that the truth is within. So from the turquoise level, their world is multidimensional. They recognize that time is a human construct, and their energy, what motivates them is to understand. So they're not looking for fixed ideas, they're just learning to understand ideas. They're exploring the possibility and the potential. And their limitation is actually, I am part of this mystery and I seek community that gets that. They're not so obvious in our society. So, bringing it back to you, your nervous system, what level you are at, it's important to know that your nervous system will change. The boundaries that you put around your problems, all of that will change based on the external conditions. So until you've actually experienced each level, until you've actually experienced the external environment, you won't have the nervous system to be able to deal with the things that are happening at the higher level. So there's no there's no skipping steps here. You need to allow your consciousness to raise at a pace that is working for you. Level 9s, this is where I'm going to leave this particular one, but level 9s, there's not enough of them really here in this reality to get a really good idea of what they are motivated towards. And then when we look at the higher levels of 10, 11, 12, 13, this is when we're accessing the spirit world. I know from processes that I do with clients where we access their soul's journey and we have a look if they've been Pleiadian or Sirian or Arcturian, or where their consciousness has traveled before in other multidimensional worlds, we can see from that higher level of perspective that being here on Earth, being here in the 3D, it's very dense, it is very heavy, but your soul's journey has gone throughout that spiral to much higher levels where the things that we take for granted are not part of their reality. They've really raised their consciousness so that when you start to access your soul's journey in that multidimensional perspective, you can access that connection to play, the connection to unity, the connection to nothingness. It's amazing. So it's assumed at that source consciousness. Sorry, start again. It is assumed at that source consciousness, the creator of this reality is that intelligence that created this universe, not the multiverse, the universe. The multiverse is quite different. So there's this belief that there's that source creator who then created our souls. It's like that ball of consciousness split off into the 3D to experience the separation from the whole. And it's like the universe is that fabric, and each one of us is the thread experiencing consciousness separately yet together. So whether you know it or not, you are part of that multidimensional structure and system. You are more than what meets the eye. You are much more than your body. You are much more than your soul. You're just that integral part of the universe. And as you are present on many levels of this reality simultaneously, I know that I've worked with people that we can take them back to past lives, parallel lives, connecting to your higher self, connecting between lives. That one's always fabulous. Checking what was your soul contract before you came into this lifetime? What level of consciousness did you want to start at? It is fabulous to really explore your soul's journey. So not sure why I've got that slide there. So coming back to NLP, the quantum linguistics, recognizing that our nervous system will encode our experience based on space, time, energy, and matter. And in NLP, we often look at where people are presupposing their problems, when they're presupposing their problems, the energy that presupposes their problems, and what presupposes their problems. It can get quite technical, but when you start to recognize that the solution for people's problems is on a different level, then you can really help somebody expand their energy and to be able to create the life that they want for themselves, to be able to manifest in that abundance and to get on that time stream where their goals have actually actualized. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So thank you for coming on the hole with me to explore the difference of spiral dynamics and quantum linguistics all in one. I can only imagine where your mind is taking you right now as I've just brought forward new codes and new downloads of information for you. I'm Claire Chancellor from Be Your Purpose Coaching, and I will talk to you later. Hey guys.